Hello and good day, and welcome to the Super Good Camping Podcast. My name is Pamela.
I'm Tim.
And we are from supergoodcamping.com. We're here because we're on a mission to inspire other people to get outside and enjoy camping adventures such as we have as a family. Today's guest certainly has the most mind-boggling resume of anyone we've ever had on the podcast. The very shortened version is that he has created, written, and produced shows for the likes of Apple Plus and Netflix, and House of Cards. He has been quite involved in U.S. politics. He has worked with folks such as Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton, Senator Chuck Schumer. He was Chief Deputy Mayor of Los Angeles. He ran a global climate change organization of megacities. He is currently the executive director of the oldest and largest survival school in America, the Boulder Outdoor Survival School, or BOSS. Please welcome avid surfer and outdoorsman Jay Carson. Woo, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Mind-boggling is probably a good way to describe my resume. Like, it doesn't,
that's exactly it. It's kind of like,
wow,
how did you do that? And that those things don't really interconnect. There's not a sort of a logical progression to go from being in politics to writing screenplays and like TV shows.
Executive producer.
I've probably been too dumb to know that it was a bad idea to jump off a cliff. I mean, I don't mean that in a self-deprecate. I used to say too young to know, but I'm not, I'm 48, so I'm not too young to know anymore. Maybe I shouldn't say too dumb. It's not very nice to me, but I've been unaware of the danger of jumping into a whole new career before I did it. And when I look back, I go, that was really not a good idea, but it worked, and so, yeah, that's kind of how I ended up. I did one thing and I just was like, politics is where I started working after college. I'm from Macon, Georgia originally. Went to school in New York City, got onto my first campaign in 1997. It was Chuck Schumer, Senator Schumer's first race for the Senate. We won. It kind of rocketed there were a lot of stars on that campaign. I was not one of them. I was 19 or 20. I was I had the very senior job of organizing the supply closet. That was, yep. I worked my way up to senior intern by the end of it, but I wasn't, Chuck wasn't calling me in the middle of the night to run tax policy by me. But but a lot of my bosses launched into really high places in politics. And I just ended up with another job and another job and another job. Before I knew it, I'd been working in politics for 15 or 18 years. And I looked around and I was like, I do not want to do this anymore. I looked above me at where people were landing, and I was like, I don't want her job. I don't want his job. I don't want her job. I don't want his job. I don't want his job. And I was like, what am I doing? If where I'm going is somewhere I don't want to be, I want to change. And so I became a writer, and it worked, that's the short version of it. But, anyway, yeah, and I started screenwriting and sold some stuff, and then some stuff got made. And one of those was, I was really lucky to be really early on House of Cards, the first Netflix show. And that was a really instructive experience to, learn. The showrunner was my best friend from college. And so I was really able to watch him and learn from that, and get to be in the writer's room with some of the real star writers of Hollywood. And I learned a ton from that. And then with a couple of years, I sold a show to Apple that became known as The Morning Show.
Right.
And so, and I was just going along my merry way as a screenwriter, and I ended up at the Boulder Outdoor Survival School as a student in 2021. And that really changed the trajectory of everything. I just feel like I rambled on there for a while, so I'm going to stop.
No, that's totally fine.
That's what we're looking
yeah.
for.
It's better than me talking. They've heard me talk before. What prompted the landing at BOSS at the Boulder Outdoor Survival School. Is that the right?
We call it BOSS. It stands for the Boulder Outdoor Survival School. It's in Boulder, Utah. A lot of people think that's Boulder, Colorado, but Boulder, Colorado is gorgeous. Boulder, Utah is more gorgeous. And yeah, what led me there? Really two things. One I was aware of at the time. Oh, three. Two of them I was aware of at the time, and one of them I really didn't learn until later. The first was that one of my closest friends had done a course. He had done a 14-day course. Boss offers 7, 14, and 28-day courses. He had done a 14-day course like a decade earlier. And this is a guy that was a director and a fashion photographer and started a big clothing company. He had done, the guy had done everything in the world. The only experience he kept talking about was his boss course. And, after a while, that kind of landed with me. I was like, when you've seen everything in the world and the one thing you keep coming back to is this course where they take you in the wilderness for 14, inside I started to ask, what's so special about this course? So that really landed with me. And then I took my student course in 2021, the fall of 2021, and early in the pandemic. And before you think you might think I'm crazy, but just to give us the context, it was like 5 days into the pandemic, everything had shut down. There's no toilet paper. The stores are emptying out, and I'm nervous. I've got 4 little kids, and the power goes out in our house. We live in Topanga Canyon, just outside of Los Angeles, and it's pretty rural. So when the power goes out, it is dark. And I thought, it's funny because I thought, oh my gosh, I wonder if this is the end of the world.
I'm not ready for it.
Yeah. And I thought, and we live in a spot where we don't have cell service. And so when the power goes out, we lose Wi-Fi and this stops working. And I looked down at this and it wasn't connected to anything. And I had 4 little kids. It was night. I had 4 little kids running around and my wife. And I thought, I don't know how to do anything. I don't know how to do anything. And I would fancy myself an outdoorsman, because I hiked a fair amount and had kind of grown up outdoors in Georgia and have done, 100 miles, 150 miles of the Appalachian Trail. But I would have told you in 20, I've really got it. You want to know about the outdoors, just ask me. And I knew in that moment that I was not telling you the truth or me the truth. I didn't know anything. And I put those two things together. I remembered my friend Mike talking about his course and the power that it had, like what he learned out there, but also how it changed his life. And then I had that moment of I don't know anything. And I signed up for a course. And the third thing that I didn't realize at the time that I kind of learned as I was out there on my course, I did a 14-day expedition course. And you go into the backcountry at southern Utah and you learn to survive with the help of an instructor and a group of students around you, but you learn to survive with not much more than a knife and a water bottle. No tent, no sleeping bag, no matches, no flashlight. The list of what you don't bring is a lot longer than the list of what you do bring. Out there on that course, I realized that there was also this gnawing feeling that something was missing in my life. I didn't realize it, but out on the course, I started to realize there's a perspective I'm missing in my life. I'm 44 years old. This was when I took the course. I'm 48 now. I'm 44 years old, and I don't have my directional headings set right. And those 14 days helped me realize that. I didn't go to the course for that. I went to learn wilderness skills. I learned all those skills, but the thing that has lasted for me for years is the change in my directional setting. From the simplest way to put it is not caring as much about stuff that doesn't really matter and realizing the stuff that does matter actually matters. So yeah, those are the 3 things that put me there. By the way, the power outage that I thought was the end of the world, I got in our minivan and I drove. Who knows? I said to my wife, I don't know when I'll be back, but I'm going to drive until I find cell service. And, like now I'm in a movie in my head, I write them, right? So I'm like ready to, I go 1.5 miles down the road to the little village. The power's on. My phone works. I call Southern California Edison and they say, yeah, sir, someone ran into a telephone pole and knocked the power out. It'll be back on in about 90 minutes. I said, oh, and in a weird way, it is helpful that it became funny because I was like, wow, like my lack of knowledge about how to do anything made me terrified over what was a really, really simple little incident. Like some guy plowed into a telephone pole. He was fine, but it knocked the power out, and I thought it was the end of the world. So,
Zombie
yeah.
apocalypse. Yeah.
Well, it was kind of weird though. At that time, everything seemed a little bit frightening. What was going on?
Yeah, senses were definitely heightened in and around that time for sure.
Yeah.
I can see how that would play out. Okay, so that's 2021. So now we're going to jump way ahead. Now you're the director of executive director of Boss. How how did you go from taking a 14-day course? I'm running the show.
Yeah, this is the more complicated part of the story. Like taking the course was a direct answer to my problems I believed I had. Becoming the executive director of something is a way to just add more problems in. No, but I really, the power of that course, it blew me away. I mean, it was the most profound experience of my life, aside from the birth of my children and my marriage. I mean, it was really like that level of, and I mean, I love what you said at the beginning. It's like getting people, I'm going to paraphrase it badly, but like getting people to get out there, right? Like that. And this was as deep out there as I ever thought I could or would go. I mean, no trails in the no list, no trails, no roads, no, you know what I mean? Like we were just walking in the wilderness. It was such a powerful experience for me. I wanted everyone to get a chance to experience it also. And so after my course, they asked me back to train to be an instructor. So you come in as an apprentice, and I think it was probably affirmative action for older people, because I was like a lot of the apprentices are in their 20s and they need to be. It's hard work, but I was in my 40s. They didn't tell me that, but it's always been my suspicion, like that. The only way I made it in was like through some side door, but I was really honored to be asked, and I was working my way as an apprentice, and I was so I get to do multiple courses that way, and I get to be the apprentice on a course. You have 2 instructors and the apprentice, and then 12 students. And that apprentice is sometimes the bridge between the instructors and the students. Like I know how to do way more than the students do and way less than the instructors. Like the instructors are like, oh, you need to make a shelter? Here, I got a box of envelopes. Let me turn it into, I mean, their abilities are, I mean, Boss has had more instructors on Alone or Naked and Afraid or Survivor than any other wilderness school. I mean, these people, these are the experts in the world at this stuff, Boss instructors. And then the apprentice is, somewhere in the middle, right? I can reliably start a friction fire, which is more than most of our students, but I can't, build a helicopter out of the box of envelopes. And then the executive director job came open a couple of years into me doing that. And I had you ran through my weird resume, and I had run a couple of organizations, and I wanted to help. That's what I felt like Boss had given me so much that I wanted to give back to it. And so I kind of sheepishly raised my hand and said, I had been really enjoying a lot of anonymity as an apprentice. And I don't think anyone knew that I'd done anything. I was just a guy that showed up and helped out on courses. It's like, well, I kind of had done a few other things. And so they hired me to help run the school. And so I've been doing that for almost 2 years now. Yeah, and it's really been great, really, really fulfilling. So yeah, that's kind of that's how I ended up there.
Cool. So I would assume that's, you know, a relatively full-time job. How do you find time that I assume you're still progressing through becoming an instructor. So where do you free up the time to do that? Because I also assume that's a pretty long road. Like having done some, not necessarily survival stuff, but having done some backcountry sort of business, I know the jump from apprentice to I actually know some stuff now.
Yes, it is a long road, and it has actually, truth be told, it slowed down my progression to instructor. You know, like the time it takes to run the school has slowed down my ability to um, become an instructor. I mean, I'm still on my way. You know, I hope that I'm definitely on this probably one of the slowest instructor tracks of anyone. Um, it was not helped by our our house burned down in the Southern California fires in
Oh, of course.
January, and
That's
that
terrible.
slowed it down too. You know, that really it kind of took me off the roster for running courses for this past season, and or helping to run courses for this past season. But you know, I just try to balance it, and the courses are being out on courses like it. You know, there's no cell phones, no, and so in a weird way, it takes me out of work for a while, but I come back with so much energy and rejuvenation that it's really good for me. You know, my wife is, I think she misses me when I'm gone, but she's like the version of me that comes back from a course is she likes, you know, I mean, she likes me before, but it's really like I have a
It's
perspective and yeah, there's just like you know, like when you get out in nature, it quiets down the voices that don't really matter and allows allows me to, allows me to see life a little better and a little truer.
Yeah, I totally. It keeps me from potentially killing people for the 9 months until I get back
Yeah.
to in the outdoors. Yeah,
Yeah. It really is like it's an antidote to a lot of the annoyance of my life. You know, and annoyance. And first of all, we teach this concept at Boss on courses called compare down. And so, right, you do an orientation before you go out, and we say, you know, if you spend most people in the world, certainly in Western society, spend their life comparing up. Man, like, look at that guy's car. Why don't I have that car? You know, look at that guy's house. Why don't I have that? You know, we just we're like looking, and I think it's evolution, right? It's sort of like, wow, look at that. I want that. I want that. And so what we teach at Boss is compare down. And so it's instead of, I can't believe it's sleeting, you know, you're like, okay, well, it's sleeting, but at least I have this poncho I can put on, you know, and at least it could be so much worse. It could be actually, now I've done some compare down out there where I've been like, man, at least it's raining hard, but at least it's not a thunderstorm. And I'm like, oh crap. Well, you know, but a lot of times, so I bring that into my regular life a bunch, you know. I don't build a lot of friction fires in my day-to-day life, you know, here in my office, but I bring that compare down concept in a bunch. Um, and then just the physical activity of that's really helpful to bring into my life, but the physical, just being out there, like, you know, I I come back, yeah, just really rejuvenated. And it's really, you know, I'll be sitting in traffic on a freeway here in Southern California, and I like will just think, well, pretty soon I'll be out there, and it'll all be fine. So
in terms of physical fitness, is there a certain level of physical fitness people have to have before undertaking one of your courses?
Yes, but it's not what a lot of people assume. You know, there are a lot of people that assume, you know, I need to be a 22-year-old Olympian in peak physical condition to be able to do this. I'm glad you asked that question, because you have to be at least 18 to take a course at Boss, but we have people in their 60s and sometimes 70s take Boss courses, and they do great. And what I've found, certainly as an apprentice, is how someone once if you have a base level of physical fitness, I would not show up at a boss course and have it be the first time you've ever hiked with a pack on, right? That's not a great idea. But if you have a base level of physical fitness, and we have all kinds of, we make you get a physical from your doctor, and there's some running tests that we do beforehand to make sure that that you can handle this. But once you have a base level of physical fitness, it's all head and heart as to whether you're going to succeed on your course or not. It really is. It's like, can you get your head into a place where you're embracing the experience that you're going through? And can you, expand your heart in a way where you can really see the joy of what you're doing, so that the attitude you're bringing toward it every day is, this is awesome, instead of, man, we haven't eaten in like 3 days and I paid money for this and this kind of sucks. And I've seen people get in that loop, and I'm just like, that is not going to, that doesn't go anywhere good, because this isn't going to get easier. I mean, it does. There's easier days than others, but in general, that's really the difference maker for someone doing it. And so, yeah, and then we have skills courses where there's not much hiking involved at all. There's a lot of movement in our expedition courses, and that's intentional, where we're trying to create a situation where you're out of your comfort zone. And so if you sit in one place all day, humans will find a way to create a comfort zone if they sit. And so we move almost every day. And it's like, just when you've settled into this one place, it's like, okay, guys, we're moving. And you're like, what? And then you've got to build a new shelter. There's a method to our madness. You're learning the skills. Every time you move, you're learning the navigation skills and the shelter building skills and the fire building skills and all that sort of stuff. But we're moving people constantly. In our skills courses, that's not the case. So you can spend 7 or 14 days sitting pretty much in one place and just really honing your skills. And we have those for people who aren't physically capable of doing our regular courses. And then this year, for the first time, maybe ever, but in a long time, we're doing an over 50 only course. So it's just for students over 50, because anyone over 50 can take, not anyone, but as I said, tons of people in their 50s and 60s and some in their 70s take boss courses. But I do talk to people sometimes, and they say, I'm a little intimidated about the idea of I'm 63 and there's going to be a 23-year-old on that course, and they're going to be going, this many miles an hour, and I'm going to be holding the group up, and I just don't want to be that weight on the group. I tell those people, you wouldn't be a weight on the group, but sometimes they just believe that they will, and so they don't come on the course. So we're just running one 50 and over course this year. We're running an all women's course this year and a 50 and over course. Because the same thing, we have, a large number of women instructors and a large number of women students. But every now and then I'll hear, I don't want to be like one of 2 or 3 or 4 women in a group of, and so we're just running one section that's an all women course this year too. So.
And how many would be in a group typically?
12. We're limited to 12 on most of our courses. We have some specialty courses. One's called the Hunter-Gatherer, and the other is called the Desert Navigator. And those are fewer. Those are 9 students each. And those courses are wild. I've actually never done the Desert Navigator, but I did the Hunter-Gatherer in 2024. And it was mind-blowing. There are some rations involved in our 14-day expedition courses. The first part of the course, there's not much food. We're trying to really establish you in the environment. And then after that, there's some rations. Not a lot, but you get some food. In the Hunter-Gatherer, if you don't find it, you don't eat it. And so that is wild. And it was a really powerful experience for me. And learning to trap and fish. And I grew up in Georgia doing some of this stuff, but this is like primitive trapping, primitive hunting, primitive fishing. And it was, with whether I ate or not, dependent on how I did at those things.
That's a motivator.
And it was motivating. And I was very bad at trapping, and I was pretty good at fishing. And so, there was this, I checked my traps and I was just like, well, I'm not going to eat tonight, you know, but there's a tree over there with acorns. My senses were so heightened on that course because they were the difference in eating or not eating. And so, when my traps wouldn't work and there was a really low acorn crop for whatever reason in 24, we were out in September, but I just hiked through the woods until I found a oak tree that had acorns on it, because I said, I can't trap any rodent. I mean, I'm not can't, but I'm not capable at the moment of trapping any rodents, and I'm starving as a result. And so I found an oak tree, and I, took my socks off and filled my socks with, you know, massive amounts of acorns, and brought them back. And well, we had to leach the tannins. I learned all this stuff. We had to leach the tannins in a creek, and anyway, it was just an amazing experience. I made a bow and arrow, a bow and a set of arrows for my son, which was
Cool.
probably like the greatest achievement of my career. I loved it. It was amazing. And they burned, unfortunately, which was like, of all the things that burned, that was like, as the house was burning, I was like, I mean, I wasn't anywhere near it, but I was like, oh, if I could just grab that bow and those arrows, but I couldn't. So.
And so there's no guns. You're not taking guns. Okay.
No, but it doesn't, it's not, I mean, there are a lot of hunters that are boss instructors, but on the course it's a different course, right? We're really trying to teach you how to do as much with these and this as possible. So you're out there, you've got nothing. What can you do? We don't even have a knife on the hunter-gatherer course. There's not even a knife. You make a knife out of obsidian flakes.
Wow.
Cool.
So we shot a jackrabbit with a bow we made ourselves and arrows we made ourselves, and then we processed the jackrabbit using an obsidian flake and cooked it over a fire that we made with a bow drill kit, like a friction fire. And I was like, there was just a feeling of, look at that, we did all of that, and it really was. I don't do it very much in my day-to-day life, but it was I have that experience. I carry that experience with me.
Very cool. That's satisfying is the word that comes to mind.
Yeah. And there may be this other, as I was just reminded of this, that I was talking about my house burning down, or my family's house burning down. I realized that I had a reservoir of resilience that I discovered on my boss course that I've been able to go back to many times in my life, whether it's parenting 4 kids or dealing with traffic in Los Angeles or my house burning down. I learned over those 14 days that I am more resilient than I thought I was, and that I can handle difficulty. I can actually embrace difficulty in a way that I wasn't aware that I was able to do. And that may be, of all the things, one of the most powerful things that I took away from the course.
Yeah, I can see that. It's a bit of a side question. When you say out there, what are the logistics of, like, do you guys own a bunch of land? Do you use, I can never remember the term, we call it crown land here. Is that what you do? You or you go into national parks, or how does that play out for you?
Great question. Because Boss is so old, and it was founded in 1968. It started as a 30-day course for wayward students at BYU, at Brigham Young University. The idea would take them into the wilderness and they would learn self-confidence and they would come back to school and be able to thrive. It worked, but also it was so popular that students started trying to fail their courses so they could go on yeah. And so then they were like, okay, I think we need to open this up to everyone. It quickly became so popular that it became a private company. By the mid 70s, it was a private company. We're now a nonprofit. We became a nonprofit in 2017, but it's been around for so long that the land agencies, the Bureau of Land Management, the Forest Service, the National Park Service, they know that we take good care of the land. And so we have permits to take students on about 1 million acres of land. Like that is some of the most mind-bending parts of it, is the range of boss. It runs from 2,500, 3,000 feet above sea level down in the desert to 11,000 or 12,000 feet up on Boulder Mountain. And you can walk that in a day if you take the right route. And so you can basically go from, we say this, it's interesting. We say, we can walk you from Mexico to Canada in a day, because you're down in the scrub, like pinyon tree, juniper forest, cactus everywhere. And then within a day, if you take the right route, you're in spruce and fir and aspen trees and big rocky granite cliffs. And so we have a 41-acre campus in Boulder, Utah, but that's just where your orientation. You show up, you do orientation there, you eat a meal there, you do that kind of stuff, and then we leave the campus on the first day, and the whole course takes place out in the wilderness.
Excellent. How does this all? Tell me about your book. How does this play into? It's coming out in 2026.
It's funny. I had a call with my editor just today to talk about that. So yeah, late 26 or early 27, mostly based on how long it takes a book to get printed, which is something I'm learning. Yeah, that's a whole other story. But like once your book's done, has to get in line with, because there's not many printing presses left in the world. And so you get in line, and it actually takes about 9 months for a book to be printed. So it'll late 26 or early 27. I will hopefully be done with it in January of 26. I wanted to tell the story of transformation that this 14 days had for me. And I tell it through the lens of the priorities of survival. Because one of the things we teach out there is like, you're in a difficult situation. Perhaps it's a survival situation, but it's a wilderness situation that's not what you were expecting. What are your priorities of survival? What's the thing that you do first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth? And that's kind of the spine of the book that I take people through, walking them through you're going through my 14-day course and the experience I had out there, but the spine of it, the lessons we're teaching are the priorities of survival. So, okay, first is it's everybody. You won't, because you spend time outdoors, but anyone that doesn't spend time outdoors is like, so food's got to be the biggest problem, right? And I'm like, nope, bottom of the list. And they're like, bottom of the list, but you got to be hungry within a few hours. And I'm like, you're hungry, but hungry is different than dying. And so it's even one of the other things I learned was like, discomfort is not danger. In Western society, I think advertising tries to teach us this. Discomfort is dangerous. Like, don't be uncomfortable. Make sure you buy this pillow or you might die. It's sort of the implication, right? And like, it's not dangerous to be uncomfortable. And that's kind of what the priorities of survival teaches, is like, sure, you're hungry. Spend all your time looking for food instead of building shelter, figuring out how to make a fire and finding water, and you're going to be comfortably dead.
Yes.
And so just reteaching that, and that's kind of what the book does. And I hope that people that spend a lot of time outdoors read it, but also people that might never go outdoors read it as like a sort of a metaphor for life. So, yeah.
I think that's great. It's if nothing else, to convey that change of mindset that happens, because it's like you said, people are worrying about comfort and stuff like that, or your day-to-day life of, well, this is important stuff. Not really. It's not, man.
Not really.
Go out, reconnect with yourself, reconnect with nature and stuff. Come home, discover that your BPMs are down, that you're breathing, that your wife is much happier with you when you get back from a trip like that, after you've showered, obviously. But
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And completely off topic. Tell me about the whole deal with anthrax.
That was on my
Oh yeah.
Wow. That must have been just wicked.
That was a wild one. Yeah, I was 23, I think, maybe 24. I was working in the United States Senate, and it was about a month after September 11th, and these letters were getting mailed around the country that had actual anthrax powder in them. And we think there were a lot of copycat letters, but there was, that there basically we think there was one person, not we, but they determined there was one person that was mailing them to various people, and they mailed one to our office, to my boss's office. I was working for Senator Daschle from South Dakota, and I was fortunate or unfortunate enough to be in the office that day, and was one of the people that actually got it. I mean, there was a scare around the country where everyone was trying to get Cipro and antibiotics and make sure that, but we were like sitting in the office with it in the air, and yeah, it was a really terrifying. It was a terrifying week, that first week, where we knew we had it, or a few days I didn't know I had it, and then I thought I might, and then yeah, and then finding out we had it and figuring out whether it was going to be antibiotic resistant. It turned out not to be, but if it were, I wouldn't be talking to you right now.
Yep.
It killed the letter that was sent to my office killed 2 postal workers. And there were 19 of us, I believe, in my office who contracted it, who had it in, like when you did this swab in our nose and then tested our blood, we had it, racing through us. So we got good medical care and we survived, but it was a really, yeah, I wasn't old enough to have a lot of perspective on it. And I look back on it now and I think, wow, that was crazy. That was a really crazy year of my life. And it may have been, when I mentioned that third thing, the gnawing feeling, the deep need to kind of get out into nature and experience its healing qualities in my life. I could draw kind of a straight line back to that year, to 2001. We had been in the Capitol on 9/11 where the 4th plane was headed, and then a month later got anthrax. And yeah, that was a tough, the
experiences you could do without.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's it for us for today. Thank you so much to Jay Carson, Executive Director of BOSS, the Boulder Outdoor Survival School. And please do check out his book. It's coming, we hope, sometime maybe in 2026, 2027. It's tentatively called 2 Birds, 1 Stone. And otherwise, you can reach out to BOSS anytime. They are at boss-inc.com, boss-inc.com. And they're on Instagram at Boulder Outdoor Survival School. And that's it for us as well. If you would like to talk to us anytime, we are at hi@supergoodcamping.com. That's hi@supergoodcamping.com. And we're on all the social media. And we'll talk to you again soon. Bye.
Bye.